So I had been to an iridologist. And for those of you that don't know, my son, when he was 10 years old, accidentally shot himself with a 12 gauge shotgun in our bedroom. And it was so traumatic. Everything was so traumatic with all of that, if you can only imagine. And so what it did is it sent me into early menopause. It, from what I've been able to put together, it sent me into early menopause. It took out my adrenals and took out the thyroid. And so I was having a lot of problems. Obviously, I had complex PTSD, which is different than just PTSD. PTSD is bad enough, but complex PTSD is like what somebody with maybe like a prisoner of war would have, or somebody who grew up in a very abusive situation and was repeatedly traumatized. So I had been repeatedly traumatized through that whole situation with Carson, my son. And so long story short, that's the gist of it. So I was not, because of all of that, I wasn't sleeping either. So I was literally going on 2 to 3 hours of sleep a day, a night. And so this had been going on for a few years, quite a few years at this point. So I see adrenals, and my husband had rolled over. He was going to sleep. And right before I went to sleep, because I don't sleep well, I'm looking at my phone and I'm going through emails and stuff after I put the watch on. I think, well, adrenals. Now, again, I don't really know what to expect. I really, hadn't even had Linda on yet. It was going to be the next day. So I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to feel anything or whatever. I don't even know what to look for, but I'm going to put it on and we'll just see. And so, I'm thinking nothing of it. Maybe I'll see a difference in a day or two, And so I'm laying there, which was the beauty of the whole thing, because I'm laying still, perfectly still, looking at my phone. And so when you're laying still, I think it allows you that when something like this were to happen, you're going to really feel it. So I'm laying still, and about 6.5 minutes is really a little bit less than that. It's more like 6 minutes and 15 seconds. But I, all of a sudden, from right below my breasts to about the top of my thighs, it was really mainly my stomach area. All of a sudden, I felt the best way to explain it is stress just come up and pull forward out of my body. And y'all, I sleep so good. I have lost all the weight I gained through all of that because I was having so many problems and not sleeping. And so I'm up eating chips and dip, watching comedies, anything to just uplift myself. And so, I'm telling you, it was 6.5 minutes and it changed my life. I am as close to being old Michelle, as I would say, as I've ever been. Because obviously, trauma, it changes you. And so there are things about me that will never be the same prior to Carson's accident, but it changed my life now. And I'm trying not to take over your show here, Linda, but
I'll add in. So 6.5 minutes changed your life, and you've been the biggest fan ever.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So it was 6.5 minutes with the WAVwatch that changed my life. And I just, I would have never thought that a watch, that God, we talk about that so many times where God can work a miracle and he can turn a situation around in an instant. And I can tell you, I know that's what he's done in so many ways in my life. And so, but the trauma of my son's accident affected me on so many levels. I came as close to losing a child as possible, as the counselor explained it to me. And so I came so close. And so, it was hard to understand a lot of the things that I experienced, but I was trying with everything I had to get up out of that pit, that fiery pit. And little did I know that the WAVwatch was going to do that for me. And so I will always, always be happy to share what the WAVwatch did for me. And what's so amazing is that I really didn't even know what to expect, and I just happened. I mean, there were 800 and something frequencies on the watch at the time. Now there's like 1,000 or so. And so, but what's the odds? It's obviously 1 in 860 something that I looked down at the screen and adrenals was on the screen. My husband hadn't had it on adrenals. He'd had it on back. And so I guess because alphabetically, I don't really know. I don't even know how I looked down and adrenals was on the screen. That was so amazing. And so, because you got the manual, right? Which you had a beautiful book then too. But, I looked through it a couple of times and, I hadn't used it yet. I was busy, but it was just amazing.